Welcome back to The Narrative. I'm your storyteller, Callistra Faria. In Guyana, a nationwide blackout last Friday, raising questions about just who is responsible for the state of things at Guyana Power and Light Incorporated. Also, I will be joined by Amanza Walton Desire, who is the spokesperson on foreign affairs in the opposition in Guyana, to speak about that situation. I'll also speak to her about the border conflict between Guyana and Venezuela, as well as upcoming leadership race in her political party. I'm going to ask her whether or not she's going to throw her hat in the ring. I notice her name is not being mentioned. Welcome to the program, Amanda.
It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
All right, well, let's start with the situation with the electricity, a nationwide blackout, and now the government is saying that the coalition government of 2015 to 2020, which included your political party in that coalition, is responsible. The National Congress Reform is responsible for what has happened because they failed to sign on to projects they needed to sign on to and did not maintain the tangible assets of the electricity company. How do you respond to that?
Absolute falsehoods. And I noticed that the Prime Minister recently published a letter in which he completely contradicted the government's position and, in fact, highlighted the significant investment that the APNUFC coalition government made in the electricity sector. Look, every guy needs to speak that between 2015 to 2020, the electricity supply had significantly improved. Blackouts were almost a thing of the past. Any Guyanese will tell you that. So, what you see happening is classic PPPC government misdirecting. They take responsibility for nothing and they blame everything that goes wrong on the APNUAFC administration 4 years into their own administration. Vice President Jack Dio, at his usual Thursday press conference, made a statement. Look, things are bad at GPL. There is no sugarcoating it. And he hinted to the need for management changes. Now, what is instructive is that when this PPPC administration took office, they systematically replaced all of the or most of the senior management team, experienced, competent men and women, and brought in their friends and family. And so, what you are seeing now is just the effect of the cronyism and the nepotism that has characterized their management of the sector.
So they claim that the Amelia Falls hydro project, which was supposed to come on stream, that was not supported by APNU AFC coalition government, and that's there's this is what they're saying is causing this the fact that your electricity company now cannot meet is not generating to meet capacity. Is there any relation with that project? And
There
did your
absolutely
coalition actually
isn't.
not support it?
I can assure you that it's not. There is no nexus between the two. And the truth of the matter is that I believe it was the IDB that came out with a position as it related to the feasibility of the Amalia Falls project. And it was based on that report that the coalition took its position. This is, like I said before, classic misdirection and propaganda of the PPPC. Everything that goes bad, they blame on the coalition. Like I said, 4 years into their own term, and with significant revenues to the extent that we've never had before. And so it's a question of competence or incompetence, as the case may be. And it's a question of this government not understanding that you are in the seat of government and you must do just that, govern. It's important to know that when the coalition came into office in 2015, we then set about blaming the previous administration that was in office for 23 years prior for the abysmal state of the electricity sector. We set about fixing it. We hired in competent personnel. The company, we advertised internationally for a CEO, and a Jamaican national came out on top, and he was appointed. As soon as the government changed, he was replaced. And he was replaced by a gentleman by the name of Bardindial that the very PPPC government had fired for mismanagement. And so that is why we are where we are. And we have to be able to call a spade a spade. And I think the vice president came out yesterday and more or less said, you know what, this is bad and we have to fix it. And so I think we could put the matter to rest once and for all. The record stands for itself. The investments made in GPL, in the development of the Power Producers and Distributors Inc., which was a company that was formed, a state company that was formed to replace Wartsila, and which generated massive savings in the millions of US for the government. And so they were proactive steps that we took. And the sector, whilst still having some issues, we saw significant improvement. What this government has to do is to set about fixing our transmission and distribution system. They have to set about augmenting our generating capacity. And that is where their focus needs to be instead of excuses and blaming. You see, the last point I'd want to make, Calista, is that our president makes a big fuss and a PR program of declaring hotels being built here and hotels being built there. Well, those types of infrastructure, they have significant impact on the power supply and on the sector. And certainly, you therefore have to plan. They went about purchasing some generators from Honduras. I think they purchased 17 units. Four of those are operable. The others appear to be inoperable. We didn't purchase those. That was what they did to augment it. We're not sure who recommended those generator sets. We're not sure of the procurement process. It's mired in obscurity. And so it's a toxic combination of incompetence, of opacity in terms of procurement, and personnel who are in place that are not qualified to hold the positions that they occupy. And so the people of Guyana and our quality of life is being severely affected because of the PPPC's incompetence.
But why was the Amelia Falls project not, why didn't it come on stream though?
Like I said, as far as I am aware, there are a number of reports which questioned the viability of the Amila Falls hydro project. I'd be happy to furnish you with the studies that we are in possession of. And so it was not a decision that was taken in abstract by the parliamentary, then government. What we also focused on, like I said, was augmenting the capacity of the power producing component as well as the Guyana Power and Light. Look, a little known fact is that the Garden of Eden power plant, under the coalition, it was retrofitted for natural gas. The current government, ignores that. And instead, they've embarked on a massive gas to energy project at Wales on the West Bank, when there is existing infrastructure that we put in place that could simply be a matter of connecting the pipelines and you're good to go. But that has been the modus operandi of this government. They deflect, they obfuscate, and they blame.
Opposition and government always not on the same page for many things. But one of the things that you seem to be on the same page about is the Venezuela Guyana border conflict. Um, that what's happening there now? I know these meetings have been periodic meetings have been facilitated, and conversations are happening, but the opposition and the government stand as one in terms of saying not 1 inch. Any new developments?
Well, yes, our position is very clear that the Essequibo belongs to Guyana, that this matter was settled via the arbitral award, and that we are committed to the process before the ICJ that will see the full and final resolution of this issue. Now, I think 3 days ago, President Maduro signed into law the organic law labeled, I think it is the law for the defense of the Guayana Essequiba. As you know, they had begun a process preceded by a referendum aimed at making Essequibo, our Essequibo, a state of Venezuela. Well, that law has been signed into effect in Venezuela, but our position is very, very clear as it relates to us. The law is null, void, and of no legal effect.
But to
Essequibo belongs to
so
Guyana.
but certainly doing that, signing into law their claim into their law, their claim on Essequibo does seem to fly in the face of the
It
Argyle
flies.
agreement, what was agreed on, that nothing further would be done to undermine the processes
Absolutely.
that are in train.
Absolutely. Let's be clear. It is a flagrant violation of the international legal order, of the UN legal system. It is a flagrant violation of the Argyle Declaration. And um, we want to be very clear that we in Guyana and the people of Guyana, the government of Guyana, has never engaged in acts of aggression against Venezuela. We have always been the people who have maintained a posture of peace and who continue to demonstrate our commitment to the region being maintained as a zone of peace. But certainly, these acts, a series of acts, it started with the referendum, and then we saw a buildup of troops at the borders, and now this has been passed into law, certainly in breach of the obligations under the Argyle Declaration, and certainly in breach of the interim measures prescribed by the ICJ, in which they said that neither party should take any step to exacerbate the situation or make the controversy harder to resolve. And certainly on all fronts, Venezuela is in clear violation of these provisions. But I want to say this, Kalistra, we continue to rely on the unequivocal and continued support of the international community. I think CARICOM has a duty to speak on this matter. You'll recall that Prime Minister of St. Vincent was hailed as the person brokering the Argyle Declaration. Well, now that President Maduro continues to operate in violation of that declaration, I would hope to hear CARICOM on this matter. Because, like I said, we have maintained a posture of good faith. Venezuela has continuously departed from that good faith, and CARICOM cannot be silent on this matter. This concerns two-thirds, five-eighths of our
I mean,
territory,
it's a huge
rather.
chunk. It's a huge chunk of your
It is a
territory.
huge chunk. It is a
It's
huge
more
chunk.
of your territory than what you would be left with should this
Absolutely, and
agreement,
it
by
is
some
it is
strange
the
notion, go ahead.
yeah, and it is the part of our territory that maybe I would say about 74% of our GDP comes from. And so it is of immense importance to us. The other concern that we have, however, is that we in the opposition require that the government of Guyana internally improves its posture.
How so?
We
Explain
are
how.
we are not happy that, for example, the Parliament has not been updated on this matter. I am the deputy chair of the sectoral committee on foreign relations, and we last met in November. I have repeatedly written to the minister requesting a convening of the sectoral committee on foreign relations so that we could be briefed as to the steps the government um, continues to take as it relates to this controversy, and we in turn could assure the people of Guyana that the government is actively engaged in the securing of our interests. In the absence of information, we are constrained in the degree to which we could give those assurances to our fellow Guyanese, our constituents, those who look to us for information. I am disappointed that since President Maduro has passed this law, that the president has not seen it fit to brief the leader of the opposition, that he has not seen it fit to give a national address to the people of Guyana on this issue. And certainly, this lack of information sharing really does jeopardize the ability of the opposition to bring the level of critical support that we would want to bring, or the level of support that is certainly warranted in this national issue.
Now, coming out of the ruling, well, Venezuela did say that they do not recognize the International Court's jurisdiction on this matter, but they went
Mhm.
to Argyle, they participated, and they agreed to those periodic meetings. And now they've done this. Do you see any sort of breakdown in, for instance, the meetings that are happening that are supposed to keep calm the situation while this final decision of the court is
Oh,
granted? Will it
absolutely,
affect the
absolutely.
relationship moving forward?
It absolutely will affect the relationship moving forward. It is the most egregious action to purport to annex your neighbor's territory in that manner. It is egregious, and certainly it has placed our relationship with Venezuela on a different footing. Um,
Because with the law, because you're also an attorney by profession, with the law
mm.
being passed, is that effectively annexing as the Essequibo? I mean,
as
without the tanks and
far
the guns and the soldiers, is that
as far
effectively?
as Venezuela is concerned,
Hmm.
maybe it is. Like I said, we regard it as null, void, and of no legal effect. And I will say this: Venezuela continuing along this path will result in its alienation. You cannot continuously operate in bad faith and not understand that it will jeopardize relationships, and it will jeopardize the peace of the region. And this is why I made the point earlier that it is important that we hear CARICOM on this matter, because CARICOM was a significant broker in the Argyle Declaration. But I'll tell you what, Callistra, in the opposition, we have a far greater concern. We have a problem of unchecked migration across our western border. Unchecked migration because, of course, Venezuelans are fleeing the economic hardships currently being experienced in Venezuela. The opposition's last count puts about 60,000 Venezuelans in Guyana, the majority of whom are undocumented. Now, it is true that over the period of the 80s, the 90s, a number of Guyanese families migrated to Venezuela. And we agree that as of right, they have a right to return and their children are entitled to Guyanese citizenship. So we want to be clear that we're not speaking about that class of persons. There is, however, the lion's share of migrants that are undocumented that are here, and that we in the opposition believe and we subscribe to the upholding of their dignity and their human rights. And we have made this very clear. The difficulty that we have, however, is that our Guyanese brothers and sisters are uneasy because they have fears of a soft invasion. They have fears that unless the government is able to check and control the migration of Venezuelans and the settling of Venezuelan nationals in the Essequibo, they have fears that what we will see in another 5 years is Guyanese being outnumbered in the Essequibo, and the inhabitants of the Essequibo being of Venezuelan nationality, deciding that, you know what, we wish to be governed by Venezuela. These possibilities don't strain credulity, and we are deeply concerned that the government does not appear to have a handle on this. And so, Guyanese are very uneasy about us being outnumbered in our own country, and possibly having a constructive occupation of our territory without a single shot being fired.
And that has always been in the conversation. That has always been a concern. What is happening there on that part of the border and the migration that is taking place, especially with Venezuela saying that, we're going to be granting citizenship to people who live there, and
Absolutely.
does raise that concern.
Absolutely, and we have been calling on the government for a sound immigration policy. We do not have one. The government is
So as
failing
far
to
as
collect data.
Mansa, the government has not created any particular policy or program that deals with that specific aspect of who is coming in and who is taking up residency within the Essequibo
They
based on
have
applications.
they have not. They have not. And in fact, the vice president of Guyana is on record as wanting us to believe. He said that, oh, all of the people who are returning are Guyanese, who would have migrated to Venezuela and are now returning home. And we know that that is hogwash. We know that that is patently untrue. But what we also are appreciative of is the fact that we know that the government is actively courting the Venezuelan population, and registering them as migrants, and giving ID cards, etc., to some of them in order to have them vote at the upcoming elections. And so there's an attempt to engineer the population in a particular manner. What we are
Why does
outraged
that sound
about.
like a strategy that would woefully backfire?
Well, it is sad because the government believes that it is in control of this, but they really are not. And they will find themselves in a position of trying to close the barn door after the horse has bolted from the stables. The Minister of Home Affairs was at his last year end report saying to the nation that the fastest growing prison population is Venezuelan males. The National Security Advisor is on record as saying that they have concerns about who may be coming in to Guyana, disguised as migrants. In the face of all of this, however, this government continues to fail to adumbrate an immigration policy and a strategy to deal with this issue. And it's quite interesting, Calistra, that the posture as it relates to our Haitian brothers and sisters is completely different. This is why I have tremendous difficulty with President Irfan Ali masquerading on the international stage as the champion of the Haitians. Because under the David Granger led administration, in keeping with our obligations under the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, Guyana led the way in signing into law the automatic 6 month stay for any Haitian being a CARICOM member of state, being a CARICOM member state rather. The first order of business of Irfan Ali was to revoke that immigration order which permitted this. So how dare you believe that you can now masquerade on the international scene as the champion of the Haitian cause? That is not so, and we reject it, because it is interesting that whilst we have a contractual obligation in the form of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas to our Haitian brothers and sisters, and we are not party to any refugee convention or any such thing in the context of the Venezuelan migrants. We see Venezuelan migrants receiving significant support, and we see our Haitian brothers and sisters being turned away, refuse visas. The ones who are here currently are having difficulty renewing their work permits, etc. So there's a big difference with what is being preached on the international scene and what is happening here at home in Guyana.
And I think that goes for almost every country in the region, that internally Haitians are not welcome, and but it's good optics to say you stand with Haiti when you're on an international podium. No, I want to turn my attention to the internal elections that are coming up within your party. I notice you are not throwing your hat in the ring, or at least there's no announcement yet. There are two other challengers to opposition leader Aubrey Norton's chairmanship of the party, but not you. Not interested?
Look, I will say this: a date for Congress has not yet been announced.
But it
And
should be announced, shouldn't it, so?
the party leader has indicated that it will be no later than August.
Mm.
The reality is that it has been constitutionally due since November last. I will say this: I believe that we have a party constitution that we must operate within the bounds of it. Certainly, it is the cornerstone of credibility of any political party. And so, for me, there's a process to which you announce running for anything. And in our party, that is, you have to be nominated. A group or groups have to nominate you. And so, in the absence of a date being officially declared and the mechanisms and processes that attend to a nomination and an announcement happening, there really is not a basis for me to make any announcement. I would prefer to wait on that time. My focus now is on making sure that our party stays united, making sure that we hold this government accountable. And when the time comes for Congress and declarations to be made, if there are any to be made, they will be. But as it relates to now, my focus is on holding this administration accountable for delivering a proper quality of life to our Guyanese brothers and sisters.
What I'm getting there, Amanza, is a soft yes, not a hard no, but a kind of soft yes. There was no there was not a hard no on this, so I think I'll continue to watch that space and see how things unfold for you. But there's also some controversy with the current challengers who have declared themselves. Is that expected to have any kind of impact on unity within the party and organizing of the party towards convention, towards Congress?
I have no listen. I have tremendous faith in the membership of our party, and I think over the years we have demonstrated an ability to come together and stay together when it matters most. And so, for me, yes, these are going to be elections and a Congress with significant importance as to how the party will fashion itself to meet the new challenges of Guyana becoming a petrol state and us being on the world stage in such a big way. But I am very, very optimistic that we can and we will get it together. I am optimistic about our chances at the elections which are due in 2025, because I think, look, for the first time in 28 to 30 years, Guyanese have had the opportunity to see um, a contrast in the way Guyana is governed and managed. We had 23 years of the PPPC administration, and in 2015 we inherited a nation that was failing that was blacklisted for money laundering. doing abysmally on the corruption perception index, just a narco state and a haven for criminal activities. And in 5 years, well, 3.5 effective years, we were able to significantly work on strengthening our institutions, on delivering, for example, significant increases for our public servants and Guyanese on the whole, and in the private sector as well. And we did all of this without oil money. We did all of it managing the non-oil sector in a way that saw the hardworking class of Guyanese being able to enjoy a certain standard of living. And so Guyanese have not lost that memory. Certainly, given the wealth that we now have, more can be done for the working class Guyanese man and woman. It is sickening to see the government steadfastly refuse to give Guyanese men and women a livable wage. Our teachers were on strike for almost 5 weeks, calling for collective bargaining, and so there is not a commitment to the development of our human resources, and that is extremely worrying. And I think the PPPC government will be held to account by the people of Guyana come 2025.
And at your last go around, it was a coalition. It wasn't just PNCR, but
It was a
a
coalition.
coalition of a unity coalition. You seem to be.
Yes.
I know AFC has since dropped out. At least I think there was some talk of them separating from any possible coalition going forward. It would PNCR be on their own in 2025?
Look, let's contextualize it correctly. The AFC did not drop out. There was an arrangement, there was an accord, and it had a particular lifespan in terms of years, and it expired. On the expiration of it, the parties met, and there was an agreement that they would focus on their party regrouping and rebuilding in that manner. We are still the joint APNU AFC parliamentary opposition, and so to that extent, we continue to work together in the National Assembly. We are of the view that coalition politics is the politics of the future in Guyana. And so I am very optimistic that you will see us coming back as a coalition for the next general and regional elections.
All right, I want to thank you so much for joining me on The Narrative. Amanda Walton Desir, opposition spokesperson on foreign affairs in the
Thank
Guyana
you.
in the Guyana Assembly. And thanks so much for joining me on The Narrative. And good luck. I hope to hear an
Thank
announcement
you.
from you about what's happening in Congress.
Thank you, Callistra. I appreciate you having me here. Thank you so much.
Yes, it's good to have you on. Thank you. This is The Narrative. I'm your storyteller, Callistra Farias, speaking there with Amanza Walton Desir, who is the opposition spokesperson on foreign affairs in Guyana, also a member of the National Assembly. More when we come back.